You.
So we
There we
got,
go.
oh, there she is. Right on. Okay.
Sometimes, sometimes when I'm speaking to people at the end of the day, the workday like this, you know, you know what it's like in healthcare,
Yep.
get behind because we're working.
Because you're working a working McGurkin. So
Yeah. Apologies.
take a deep breath. It's okay, right? It's we're just trying to answer a couple questions and get some excitement about the symposium up. I don't know if you know, there's a woman named Leslie Horton. You might have seen it. Her video went viral, and she was kind of responding to someone who was bothering her on email and told her that she looked like ugly in her bus driver pants because yeah, like it was really insulting her. And she said, well, I had uterine cancer, so I've had a hysterectomy. And that's why I look the way that I do. And, this is what women in my age group look like. And it went viral. Did you see that one? She did it on the news. Super, super brave. She's like doing the weather. And then she just, and very briefly, I think it was like 40 seconds. But she's in Calgary. And so I sent her a little message and I was expecting it to just get screened out, right? Like, whatever Calgary lady saying, I saw your viral video and I want you to, cover my event. But she got back to me personally and asked for the press release. Yeah. So yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good for us because she might cover the story. She is I think she does weather and traffic, but she'll do the occasional like special interest story if it's something of interest. And yeah, so I mean that could be really amazing. I'm excited about that. And we just got one question about brain fog. So I don't know what you recommend in general for brain fog. I know what I like, but is there something that's like a go-to if someone's really just struggling with like concentrating and focus and remembering stuff?
The first thing I do is test B12 levels and vitamin D levels. And even if you're in the normal range, you can definitely have brain fog if you're in the normal range there. So I test that. And then if I that's usually a very common culprit, and I do a B12 shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's what I said actually, but I bet she's
Yeah.
gonna do some testing.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of testing. So that's usually the way I answer most questions is I'm just going to test, not guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just had a debate about that. Because, there's an idea that we can treat based on symptoms. And yeah, sure, I guess, yeah, you can. And but for me, with my weird story is my estrogen was just going through the roof and I wouldn't have known. I had no like troubling symptoms. Like I really wasn't feeling any worse. And then my doctor, she checks every 3 months. And, at that point, because I wasn't stable, and she said, oh, yeah, it's really high. And she put me on a couple of supplements to try to get it to balance out again. And then checked again in 3 months. And by that time, I was feeling just dreadful. That's when I started having like strange itchy skin and really big problems sleeping and really horrible anxiety and going on rage walks. And then she's like, yeah, no, we have to prescribe. But if she had been treating based on symptoms, she wouldn't have even been looking for that because I wasn't presenting with troubling symptoms until it was really bad. And she was like, yeah, we got to treat that because that's puts you at risk for cancer.
Absolutely. This is why one of the reasons like HRT can get a bad name because everybody presumes, oh, going through menopause, estrogen is low. And for many, many women, if you actually do proper testing, you'll find like late 50s still elevated, like major estrogen dominance going on. And so, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going to happen if you give that woman more estrogen.
Yeah. And it's not a good thing. And guessing is you know, if you don't need to, why would you, right? I just had someone talking about the Dutch test and you know, testing for the hormones that way, and that it's kind of a waste to go through doing that process of testing. And I just feel like it's a little misguided. Like I can see why you don't want to shill out a bunch of money and do the testing over and over again. But especially when you're first starting, I think, you don't even have a baseline of what's going on. And
Yeah.
I was really surprised that my estrogen was high, like, because, I mean, I knew I was looking for perimenopause and I thought same thing, right? Estrogen goes low. And, so I have too much systemic estrogen, but not enough where I need it, and I needed estrogen cream.
Yeah.
So then people get really confused. Why do you need estrogen? Oh, it stays localized in the vagina. And
That's right. If you have vaginal dryness or some incontinence popping up or painful intercourse, sometimes even if estrogen looks normal or elevated in blood or urine, then I still will do vaginal estrol because exactly what you said. It doesn't go systemic, so you don't have any of those potential negative things that people are concerned about, like blood clots and cancer, and it doesn't go systemic. So, and the vagina tends to lose it first.
Mhm. Yeah, which is shocking for me because I had not noticed any dryness. I hadn't had any sexual pain. I wasn't having any issues at all with incontinence, but I suddenly had UTIs.
Yes, that's definitely another one. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like none for 20 years and then four in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my family doctor was like, we're going to send you to a urologist. And I know what that means. So I was like, I don't want to go to a urologist. I'm pretty sure that the bladder itself is healthy. They're not going to go in there and find anything suspicious.
Yeah.
That's where I work with a functional medicine doctor, and this is where you would come in as a naturopath, being able to understand that, it's worth trying. I mean, even if it doesn't actually fix it, but for me it did, right? I mean, knock on wood,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
and
And very low risk of harm or negative side effects just with like that vaginal estriol.
yeah,
Very, very low risk.
yeah, but huge benefits, right?
Yeah, worth a shot.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that was really the only question that we had, other than people ask me all the time, what can a naturopath do for me that my chiropractor and my regular doctor can't, right? Like what is it that, so if I came into your office, I'm 54 this month. My birthday's October 15th. And if I came into you and I was like, I'm feeling worn out and I'm extra tired and I'm having UTIs and I have less of a sex drive and I'm having rage walks, what would you do that a regular doctor wouldn't? I mean, for one, you wouldn't just tell me I was, making it up or it was on my head.
No, so there's definitely a few things that make us different. We're almost like a health private eye or a health investigator. So people typically don't come to me first. They've usually gone to their medical doctor or I mean, I'm pretty different from a chiropractor, although I do adjust as well, but chiropractor can't do like blood work and
I know, but
stuff.
some of the
Yeah.
things I
Yeah,
hear,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah. But if we stick with the comparison to the medical doctor, usually I'm getting people where their doctor has failed. So has failed to, help them in with all of these symptoms, right? The doctor maybe will rule out the life-threatening things, which is fantastic. Like, please do that first and then come see me. Because we can help with things that are responsive to, there's a big world in between doing nothing and doing drugs and surgery. And so that's the medical doctor's toolbox
yeah.
is the drugs and the surgery. But there's this huge space in between where you can do many things natural health wise
Yeah.
and have a really wonderful big effect and very few, side effects and downsides that come along with drugs and surgery. And um, also looking more to like treating what is the cause, right? Like what is actually going on. I tend to do tons more testing than medical doctors do because I don't have to justify everything that I do to public insurance.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you take a look at, like, if I came in with my recent blood work, would you have a look at that and see what was going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do like it when people bring that. It may or may not be relevant, But I always want to look at it because I can at least see like if something's been done recently, maybe I have a different interpretation than what was given to them. I mean, often people's doctors don't go over their results with them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't even have any feedback on what was tested. Was it normal? Was it optimal? That's a huge one. So when I look at lab work, I look at optimal levels, not just are you going to be flagged because you're not in the reference range? And that B12 that we talked about a few minutes ago is a perfect example where optimal for most people is typically upper end and above the average population range. So definitely looking at blood work for sure with a different set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And has your testing even been relevant? Because sometimes people will go, "Oh, my doctor just did this huge hormone workup," and I look at it and it's like TSH, and like that's it.
Yeah.
That's all that was done.
Yeah.
So it's
I've
a
seen that
different
too.
set of eyes.
I've seen that too. And I don't interpret blood work, but occasionally I have someone ask me and they'll show me and be like, did they, what does this mean? And it's like, oh man, like like not even the estrogen. Like, yeah, it's pretty basic stuff. And the vitamin D on that one, I at one point was just feeling really low and I was like, the vitamin D, it can be so sneaky for us. And I have to always wear lots of sunscreen because I'm naturally quite pale and I burn easily and I'm not outside a lot and I live in Canada.
Yeah.
So upping that made a huge difference to my,
Yeah.
yeah, like having enough, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, and that's one in Alberta right now. Um, you have to get like a special permission from your doctor to do that. The doctor has to like write why they want to test your vitamin D. I'm like, wow,
Yep.
okay. So
Yep. In Ontario as well, most people's doctors will actually charge them. Like OHIP will not pay for it basically unless you have rickets.
yeah, which is so sad because I mean, if you don't want to take more or something that you don't need,
No.
and it is one of those things that makes a huge difference. At one point, my son had hair falling out and he was like, "Oh no, I'm basically dying." And we went to the doctor, and of course, she's very good, so she looked at everything. And that was the only thing that came up, vitamin D. And then got the vitamin D level back up, problem solved.
Yeah. And
So,
it's utilized by every single cell in the body. There's only two things that do that, vitamin D and T3 thyroid hormone. So it plays into literally any health condition, like every single symptom that you listed in your example of, so I come into your office with da 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 da. I'm like, well, vitamin D can be a player in literally all of them. So we better get a reading on file for you to know what your levels are. And it's also important to test after you identify lower levels or deficiency. You got to test 3 months later because how do you know that what you've been doing has worked at all
yeah,
to
yeah.
bring your levels up?
It might not be enough,
That's
right?
right. So
More.
there's more, I think with naturopathic doctors, there might be more follow-up, more monitoring, and more time. More
Yeah.
time spent with people does
Mm.
a lot.
Do you feel like you're a bit of a counselor? Because I've seen several naturopaths, but the one that was actually very helpful, she spent a lot of time trying to understand me and what was happening in my lifestyle and the decisions I was making and put things in a very like it worked really well for me, a very point blank, straightforward communication style. There was no mamby-pamby around it. Like for example, with my weight, it was a little bit heavy, and she said, the truth is the heart is a muscle and you have to exercise. You have to exercise your heart because it's a muscle. And if you don't, it's going to get weaker. And with your family history, that puts you at risk. So I want you to start exercising and you're going to go to the gym and you're going to get a personal trainer and you're going to start exercising. And then I'll see you in 3 months. Like that. And, I was like, ugh, I don't want any of that. I'm not interested. But at the same time, I'm a logical person. Okay, the heart is a muscle. And this woman went to school for how many years to help people. Like this was her intention, right? So
Yeah.
I did what she said and she was right. And here I am still.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. That, yeah, I'm glad that that worked out. Yeah, are we a bit of a counselor? For sure. Oh my gosh, for sure. Like 1 in 2 people cries in their first visit with me, hands down, because they've been holding it all in, right? And then they let it out. And when you're talking about natural health, um, we acknowledge the effect that emotions and, like, what is your mental state? How does that affect your physical symptoms? This is ignored a lot of times in allopathic medicine in general. There's very little talking about, how is your mental emotional health contributing to your physical health. But in Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, which we have big background in, that's super connected,
Hmm.
like your mind and your emotions trickling down and causing the physical. So yeah, we do things to help the physical, like bottom up, but then we also want to make sure that top down is working too, which is like, how do you get this working for you instead of against you?
Yeah, which is probably huge for us, especially like this is part of why I started the group is that, yeah, I really felt for the women that have been like dismissed by their doctor with like, we look for disease and we don't find any disease, so you're okay. And then they feel like, they've been completely shot down and they're feeling crazy and they don't know what to do. And so giving them a place to land where they can talk about what's going on is really important.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cause of the emotion is like such a circle, right? So you're having these symptoms and they make you feel down, and then you're down and depressed, and maybe you're eating too much or drinking too much, and then that also contributes, and then you feel bad about yourself, and then you're getting, what I mean?
Snowball.
Get on
Yeah.
this crazy and something, and I think that's partially the logic behind my naturopath because I said, I'm afraid to exercise. I'm naturally very clumsy and I hurt myself all the time. Since I've studied yoga extensively, I don't anymore. I still fall, but I catch myself. So it's better. But I was like, I'm just going to go to the gym and hurt myself. And that's why she was like, you're going to get a trainer. And that really changed my whole life because the trainer was the one saying, you're stronger than you think. So I said, I think I'll maybe want to do this yoga training, but I've been afraid because I'm clumsy. And she was like, this is clumsy, whatever, who cares, right? Just go and do it. Just like you come and you show up to your training, you just go and follow that. And it's really changed, you know, well, it's changed my whole life for
Love
sure.
it. Love it.
Yeah, so a naturopath, like she saved my beans. I still have the condition though, right? The chronic inflammation condition. The cause for that was never actually identified or found. And so I still have to, I treat it every day is that's how I look at it, right? I'm just always treating the inflammation condition and I'm hopeful that one day it will resolve. That's what everybody told me. And if it doesn't, then whatever. I changed my lifestyle and got a lot of big bang for my buck there, right? By addressing the lifestyle issues. The lifestyle
Mhm.
issue, a huge difference for me. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about was for someone like me, so maybe they're resistant to the prescriptions because they've been wanting to go all natural and they've done all the natural things. So when you identify the lifestyle stuff, that there's nothing there to tweak, right? She is active, she is taking care of her bod, she is careful about what she eats, and she's starting to have symptoms, but she's afraid to take prescriptions. So how would you manage that?
Uh, I always start with, um, a lot of people, they might be exercising, they might be thinking that they're eating appropriately, and there might be a lack of knowledge there as to what is actually healthy.
Like they're
Um,
cutting calories, but they're not increasing protein, and yeah.
yeah, like that's one example, or it's like the wrong type of exercise for you. So you're, wasting a lot of energy, and like some people will tell me exactly what you just said. I do all these right things and I'm still having symptoms. And then I kind of look at it on paper and go, well, that's probably not actually the right things. But it's tricky because for every single person, it might be slightly different. It's based on what exactly are those symptoms? What have they tried?
Mm.
Did they give it the full the full gusto, right? Like, was it a supplement that they tried? Oh, I tried magnesium and didn't do anything for me. Well, was it the wrong dose, wrong form, wrong duration, wrong symptom that you're trying to treat? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like
I
magnesium is a great example because I had the first supplement. I had the runs like you wouldn't believe. And that's not
very
bad.
common. Yeah, very common example, classic.
I started trying different kinds. I didn't go magnesium as,
Yeah.
garbage, not going to be helpful. I just went, okay, I'm going to try different kinds until I find the one that helps me enough and doesn't cause that kind of, you know, side effect that isn't helpful. But
Yeah.
that's, I think we're coming with someone to guide you and help you with looking at that. I think sometimes the lifestyle stuff is like you're so in it that you can't really see the big picture of what's going on.
It's very true.
Yeah, and then someone from
Very
the
true.
outside can be like, "Oh, so you can't sleep, so you get up at 4 a.m. and you run every day
Yeah. Yeah.
on an empty
Well,
stomach."
and most people don't have like medical college level biochemistry and anatomy and nutrition and like most people don't have that. You're an expert in your own field,
Yeah,
right? You're
yeah.
an accountant or like a landscaper or like something like that, right? So it's like, how would you be expected to figure that all of that out on
Yeah.
your own? And if you think about, the cost of coming to a naturopath, I think it costs more to go it alone. Because
That's what
think
I
about
tell people.
how
I
much
say
money
that.
did you spend on all that magnesium?
Yeah, I say that to people when they're like, well, I'm just going to figure it out by myself. It's like, you can do that, but it might take you 2 years
A
and you
lot
spend
longer.
a lot of money, on stuff that doesn't work. Or you can consult someone like me or a
Yeah.
naturopath, and I'm like, now I'm telling people like, ask the naturopath about perimenopause if they're in perimenopause, because I've had a few
Yeah.
times clients come back and be like, oh, they gave me this. And then I look at what it is and it's like, oh man, that's going to increase your estrogen. You're already having estrogen dominance. I think that's probably not a good idea. Maybe go back and ask or, find someone else or
Another
just, yeah,
classic example. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm able to catch that at this point. But for someone going it alone, like, geez, it's kind of amazing. And it's interesting you said that because when I took anatomy and physiology at the University of Mount Royal University here, I remember thinking to myself, geez, it's sort of a disservice that this isn't part of our high school curriculum, What's where, what's it called, a basic idea of
Totally.
class.
Totally.
Like we're walking around in this body, but we just have no idea. Like I got really fascinated with the kidneys. And I was like, oh, I wish we had like a whole class just on kidneys and like different
Yeah.
examples of stuff that happens and how it works because I just found it, so fascinating. But of course you can't because you have to cover so much stuff and then take a test and da 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to share about getting ready for the symposium? Do you have some thoughts? Have you been thinking about what you might present to us? And
Yeah. I'm super looking forward to it. I think that I'm just speaking on sort of like similar to the kind of stuff that we've been talking about today, but like naturally focused treatment options for perimenopause, all of the super fun symptoms that women tend to get.
Mhm. We need to hear
Yeah.
it. We need to hear that it's part of it and that it's okay, that it's treatable and it's not forever.
Yeah.
And I would really appreciate it if you would talk about the testing that you do
Okay,
and
yeah,
give us some examples of, like how that can solve or prevent some problems by actually,
absolutely.
yeah, because I think that it's something that, um, a lot of the time, I would say right now in the group, probably the majority of people are saying that you don't need to test your hormones to do your hormone therapy.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that.
Yeah. It's true that you don't need to,
Mhm.
but if you want to have a really good experience and be sure that you're doing the right thing, then and take a look at, well, how's your body going to cope with that, right? Like liver and all that stuff has to deal with it. Like it's a more prudent and valuable, I think, approach to
Mhm.
do some testing first. But That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with that as far as like I'm a big fan on taking prescriptions and medication. I think it's hallelujah, thank God it saved my life. I could have died from pericarditis
Yeah.
without it. But I only want to take as much as I need to, and I don't want to take more than what I need
Yep.
to that
Yep.
place
Yep.
stable. And
Yep.
that's how you know when you're doing the testing, are you taking enough? Because it's coming back and you can see what's going on with the levels.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's how because we have this kind of more is better mentality. Is one pump of estrogel is good.
That's not the case. Yeah, that is totally not the case. Even just based on symptoms, like some women, we go up in dosage and they're like, oh, this really brought my hot flashes back.
Because it's not quite right.
Yeah. And it's not even, where I do testing always whenever I change a dosage. I don't repeat the Dutch, but I do serum. I'll do Dutch as a baseline and then serum to monitor HRT because there are therapeutic targets in the
Mhm.
blood that you want to be at.
Mm.
Uh, and that's much more cost effective than doing the Dutch every time you change a dose.
Yeah. So you can
Um,
explain that a little bit, like what the
yeah,
benefit is and of having that full kind of like what the full picture is and what the benefit of that. That would be really great. And of course, I mean, my main goal isn't to convince people to do things a certain way or to do things the way that I do things.
no,
It's just because I want people to be making an informed decision and doing something that they feel really comfortable with.
so they know all the options and what's going on out there.
Yeah. And not making an impulsive decision like, oh, all prescriptions are bad. Well, I mean, you say that until you're dying of pericarditis, and then you go, okay, I would like some colchicine so that my heart doesn't stop. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I don't encounter a lot of people that think all prescriptions are bad. It's more so the overprescribing and the misprescribing. You always want to be lowest effective dose, lowest duration, all that stuff.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I'm
a
looking
lot.
forward to it. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
really, really good. And
good.
I'm hoping that we're going to get some more press. I think that we will. It's just that they usually wait until like the day before because
Yeah.
that's when they have to fill their time slot, right? But
Yeah.
okay, so I'm looking forward to that and I'm going to hang up now.
Cool.
And we'll just keep in touch as things progress. And if you have any questions for me, you can always just let me know. And I am telling people that you're presenting for the group, and then and that you can prescribe and that you can work with people in a distance as well, so that they don't have to be sitting there going, "No one's
Yeah.
helping me." Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, hon.
Awesome.
Have a good day.
Okay. Good to see you. Okay, bye
Bye.
for now.